This video is part of a series. Complete the previous videos in this playlist before you start this video. The complete playlist information, the material and the code file information is given in the video description below.
Let's get into this deep dive of advanced AI agents with NA10. NA10 gives us the best option, one of the easiest way to experiment with AI agents. If somebody wants to learn anything in agentic AI system, if we want to really experience the power of AI agents, NA10 gives us that opportunity to build AI agents quickly, to test them quickly. So let us try to understand and explore some more complex workflows within NA10. Let's learn some more workflows. Let's learn some more new nodes. Let's explore some complex connections. We will try to introduce webhook node. We will try to introduce HTTP node. We will try to introduce coding node, some if then else condition node, etc. We will also try to do a small deployment of the AI agent where the front end will be a kind of web application in the back end, or AI agent works. And then when the user interacts with our application in the front end, from the back end, our AI agent sends the response and we will be able to see the result in the front end. We will try to see a basic version of the deployment as well. As of now, N8N is one of the easiest one to experiment with AI agents. Maybe in future, we may find some other frameworks. Until that point, I request you to experiment with N8N as much as possible. There are so many N8N templates that are readily available. I want you to work with as many templates as possible. Maybe keep yourself a target of 50 templates. You don't need to create those templates. You can use somebody else's template and try to work with them. At least if you try to mimic maybe 10 templates, 10 workflows you can create by yourself, but at least 50 templates you must work with them. Then you will be feeling extremely comfortable with N8N agents. Even when you join any company into that agentic AI team, you will be very comfortable with the kind of work that they are doing, the kind of expectation from you, the kind of terminology that is used. You will get a good idea on this. So I will try my best to cover what are all the most important N8N agents and some of the hidden credentials, etc., that we must know, that we will try to cover up in this particular session. We will start with our first N8N agent, that will be RAG in N8N. We have already seen RAG. What is the use of RAG? Usually, if you ask any question to large language model, based on its training data, it will try to generate the answer. But what if you want the large language model to look into only your set of private or confidential documents? And LLM will never have access to your private and confidential document. What LLM does is, if you are asking any question that is related to your private confidential document, it gets into the problem of hallucination. Instead of saying, I do not know the answer, LLM will try to give you an answer that looks good, but it is not factually correct. So to avoid hallucination, we have introduced something called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Generation is done by large language model. Large language model is generating the output. But when you are generating the output, you retrieve the relevant documents and then augment it to your generation so that you get the relevant answer. So LLM answering from our private repository, LLM giving specific answers, LLM avoiding hallucination. To perform all these, we require something called RAG. We had already a couple of sessions on RAG in a generative AI topic. Basically, RAG gives you access to only certain type of documents. Even if you ask any question that is outside world, maybe standard LLM may know the answer, but if you are in RAG, if you're asking any question which is not related to these documents, LLM itself will say that I do not know the answer, because the answers are totally limited to the repository that you are giving. It's almost like document question and answering. You have a document or you have set of documents and you want to have a GPT or you want to have a large language model that is totally related to those documents only. So let us get into our N8N workflow and start creating this RAG. So let's get started with our new N8N agent RAG. So let's get started with the workflow, create the new workflow. Let's name it as RAG. Let's add the tag Agentic AI course. Now, when you're talking about RAG, you must talk about the files, because after all, RAG is document question and answering. LLM will search in a document or in a set of documents and try to answer our question. So what we have to do is we have to get those documents. Google Drive is the best place where we can download the documents from. So I will click Google Drive. There are a hell lot of integrations, N8N plus Google, and there are different type of credentials that we have to use for each of them. Google Drive, and then within Google Drive, there is an action called download file. We have to use it. Usually N8N starts with triggers, but here we are starting with an action. But automatically when you select it, an action node will be added. That means if I go back here, when clicking execute workflow, that means when somebody clicks on execute workflow, that is the trigger. Right now we have to download a Google file, or we have to download set of Google files, and then we can create an AI agent that will act as RAG for us. So what we will need to do is we have to give credentials. As of now, we do not have Google Drive credentials. We have Gmail credentials, but those are not sufficient. Google Drive credentials are fetched slightly differently. So we have to create new credentials. Once you create those credentials, once you connect to your Google Drive, automatically you will be able to see all your files from your Google Drive here. And the operation is download, resource is file. You just want to download that file. So what you want to do is you just click on this create new credential. And then either you can ask the AI agent, or better one would be Open Docs. Here is a very clear step-by-step procedure that is given to you. You create a new Google Cloud project, and then step by step, they have given all the steps. There's a video also. What I'll do is I have understood all these steps one by one, slowly. I will explain you. You must follow this very carefully. There is a high chance for making an error. What we need to fetch is we have to get the client ID and the client secret. These are the two values that we need to get, but looks like there are 7 to 8 steps in that process. We will try to do that. So the first step, it starts with either you can ask AI here. I have already asked. So these are the steps that we must follow. The first step is go to Google Cloud Console. Google Cloud Console. So step one, Google Cloud Console. Open that Google Cloud Console, console.cloud.google.com. And then you have to create a new project. Right now I am landing on a project, one of the old project. Remember, this is my different login ID. I have to select my account that I am using in N8N. So my Google account that I'm using, a temporary N8N account I have created from Google. This is the one. Now we have to create a new project. This is known as a project, AI Agents 2. This is an old project. So let us create a new project. So new project, I would say RAG N8N agent. That will be my project name. It will take some time for creating this project. Once that project is created, I will click here, and then you have to select that project particularly. Now, right now I am in N8N RAG project. So once this project is created, let's go to the next step. You go to API and services, and then you have to enable Google Drive API. What is that? So on the left hand side at the top menu, you have these API and services. How do you reach there? On the left hand side here, when you click on the menu, API and services, and then you click on that, and then you have to search for particularly Google Drive API. Let me go here, search for Google Drive API. So here is the Google Drive API, and you must enable this Google Drive API. Enable. Once this is enabled, we will go to our next step. Okay, this is enabled. So let's go to next step. What is it? You have to set up OAuth credentials. API and services, go to credentials, OAuth client ID. Let us go there. So you have credentials here. Left hand side, third option is credentials. And then it says, remember to configure OAuth consist screen information about your application. So what Google forces you is you have to configure consist screen. So in this one, you get started. You can give an app name. I would say RAG N8N is my app name. And then supporting email, your email address, whatever you have selected. Next, audience is internal or external. And then next, email address. Next, agree, continue, create. So that is on the consist front. Once that is done, we are 2 steps away from getting that. So create OAuth client is the next step. Once you fill that consist, you have this create OAuth client. Application type must be web application. You have to select web application, leave the name as it is. Now authorized redirection URLs. So here you have to add the N8N URL. So I'll go back to N8N, authorized redirection URL. Click here to copy. You must copy this, and then you come back to your Google project, cloud project, you put it, and then you say create. That is it. We are with client ID. So we have the client ID, bring that client ID, paste it here, and then you go back and get the client secret. You come back here, put it here. Don't use my client ID, client secret. I'm going to delete them immediately once we are done with this session. And then you click sign into Google. So a green tick mark, it means that we are on the right path. And then select the account. Access blocked, and cloud has not completed Google verification process. Now this access blocking happened because we haven't added our email ID as a test user. So what you can do is you go back here until here everything has worked fine, no problem. You go to audience, you click on audience, you can publish the app or you add a test user. So I will say test user, add one user, you can add up to 100 users. So you say save, and then I will come back here. This time it must work because I have added the test user there. So I'll come here, sign in with Google. Since this person is the test user right now, Google haven't verified this app. Would you like to back to safety? Because it is saying that it may be unverified app. Google hasn't verified it. You take your own risk. I'm saying since we have created it, we will just continue it. And then you give the access. At the end of the day, this is what we want. We want Google to read our files from our Google Drive, and so that we can build a RAG on top of it. Now everything has worked perfectly. So these are the steps that you must follow. I have shown you the steps. They may look simple right now, but it may take 2, 3 iterations for you to actually go through all these steps. Make sure that you're doing it slowly and following exactly what I have done here. And then once your Drive account is connected successfully, you can see all your files here from the Drive, whatever are the files can be seen here. What we will do is, if you want to really build the RAG, maybe I will keep the file, I'll get that file's URL and paste it here. Let's go to our Google Drive and then I will keep the file there. That file URL, we will paste it here. So this is the file that I'm talking about, Constitution of India. This is going to be shared with you. You can upload this file into Google Drive, or you can directly get this file as it is. You can get the location of this file and directly paste it. I'm going to share the location of this file, or you can upload it to your own Google Drive and give it, or you can upload any other PDF document RAG. It's all about document question and answering. It need not be limited to this particular file that I'm showing. So what I'll do is I'll fetch the address of this file. Once I open it with this one. So this is the file that I'm talking about, and it is kind of shared already. So I will get that link. So copy this link. Since it is open file, anybody can access it. I will just keep it here and then execute this step. If everything works fine, this particular PDF file must be downloaded. A file size is 3.92. A green tick indicates that the file has been downloaded successfully. You can download it in this manner. So this is the first node that we have added, which is downloading of the file from Google by set. Here the biggest or maybe the complex step is setting up Google Drive account. Otherwise, you just are giving your URL, and that URL is just a simple link that I have shared here. You're going to just put that Drive URL. Make sure that the file that you have on your Google Drive, it should be in shared mode. It should be at least in a view option for everyone, or at least you are using the same account ID that you are the owner of that file. To be on the safe side, you can use this location that I have given. So our first step is done in our RAG, which is we got access to the file. We have successfully set up our Google Drive node right now. Now what we need to do is we have to recollect RAG. In RAG, we have to take the data. Once the data is gathered, we have to divide it into smaller chunks, and then we have to convert them into embeddings. You have to store those embeddings in the vector database. After that, we will ask a question to a large language model. It will convert that question into a vector that will be compared to the vector database, and the answer will be fetched. Now, all that process first, before even I complete this whole workflow, I would like to show you the whole process end to end once, so that we have the clarity on what needs to be done, so that the remaining steps can be done easily. So let's go through that. Right now, we have the data. If you have the data, if you want to create this agentic RAG, basically within an agent, we want to have RAG, we want to have a conversation with our documents. What is the flow? First, after getting the file, you have to get a vector database. For that, you will be requiring Superbase vector store. That is the vector database that we will be setting it up. So we will set it up. I will show you Again, there are so many credentials in this. We have to give this host service secret role. There is a way we can get it. We will create a project in Superbase and then we'll check the project status. We get the project URL host, we get the service role secret, and then we get the API key, etc., etc. All of them we will get it. Once you have it, you will create a table. The table contains the vector embeddings. So right now you have the PDF file. That PDF file need to be converted into embeddings, and those embeddings will be stored in a vector database. This vector database will have a table. To create that table, there is a particular piece of code that we have to execute. We have to create a database. We have to create a table called documents, and then we have to create a match function that will be helpful for searching later on. And then once you create them, we're going to go through all these steps. Right now, I'm just telling you what is the overall process. Once we create that table, we will add that as the node. So right now you have this data, which is in .pdf format. And then this is the vector database setup, vector database or vector store setup. Obviously, you have to give embeddings here. We connected to OpenAI embeddings. Obviously, you have to give the document chunking strategy. So now we will go to document chunking strategy. So you have set up the Superbase vector store. If you remember in our previous exercises, we used to use Chroma vector store or Fires vector store. But here we are using Superbase vector store, which is compatible very easily. It is integratable in N8N. So for document splitting, we will use something called document loader. Within that, there is an option called recursive text character splitter, the regular way of splitting the characters into multiple pieces, multiple chunk size, chunk overlap of 10% we will give. And then for the embedding, we will use OpenAI embeddings. Text embed 3 small is by OpenAI. You need OpenAI account for that. So by now, you have the PDF files, you have the chunks conversion. Once those chunks are done, those embeddings are created. The embeddings are stored in a Superbase vector store. At the end of this step, you must have a table with the vector embeddings and the chunks. So if you see the table, initially that table name is document. It was an empty table. Now you will have the content text, you have the metadata, and most importantly, you have the vector embedding for that particular chunk. Once that is done, we will now keep all of this aside. This is all the setup for vector database. We have created our text into vector, stored them in a database. Now we will freshly start our AI agent. So once somebody, this is a chat trigger, once somebody sends a message, our AI agent will wake up. It will use a chat model called OpenAI. One of the tool will be RAG. We will be connecting the RAG tool. A RAG means the vector database that we have created earlier. So that vector store, we will be connecting it as a tool here. So all that we need to do is we will select Superbase vector store. And then whatever was our Superbase account and whatever was our document table. This is the table documents. If you remember, this is where we have stored all our vector documents. The same table, we select it here, and then we will write the description, answer the questions asked by the user in the chat window, and use the vector store data. Anyway, we are giving it as the table name. Obviously, it will use this data, but to be on the safe side, I'm saying that use the vector store data. After that, once you are done with this, here also you're giving embeddings. The reason why we have to give embeddings here is even when the question is asked, we have to convert it into embeddings, so that a question will be converted to embeddings, and then that will be compared with all the chunks, and the number of chunks that are most similar, they will be pulled. The answer will be synthesized by using this LLM. That is it. Once this is done, we are ready. Our RAG is kind of it split into two parts. The whole vector store related is in one part. And then once you call this, once you execute the workflow, once you say open chat, this one will open. Then your message will be going to AI agent. This agent will indeed call this whole vector store. So within this workflow, this whole vector store is a kind of sub workflow, which is working like a tool for us. So let us see some examples. Let's say if somebody types, this is a Constitution of India. So I have written what are the main rules of Constitution of India. Once you ask that question, it will try to generate this answer. And what are the fundamental rights? This is another question that was asked. This is the answer that got generated. We are going to go through all these steps. The reason why I'm telling you right now is if we have the bird's eye view, if we know what is the path that we are following, you will also be somewhat comfortable. Otherwise, in this N8N, if I keep on adding the nodes, sometimes you may get confused, like why am I adding a certain node? And then later on, we will bring the memory also into picture. So let's go back to our N8N workflow and get started with this RAG. All right, then let's go to the next step. I want to convert all these documents into vector store. I want to convert them into vector embeddings. For that, we need to add Superbase vector store. And then add document to the vector store is the option that you need to select. Add documents to the vector store. As of now, I have been connected with one account credentials already, but for you to connect it, I will create another set of credentials. You need to get the host, you need to get the service role secret. For that, you have to go to Superbase. You say Superbase login, click on that, create an account in Superbase. I think they have a limitation on the number of projects. So I have 2 projects created. I will try to create another project. Project name, let me say it as Agentic AI RAG. Let's say, or I think I already have one RAG N8N agents. I will create RAG N8N agents to RAG 2 is what I'll create. Database password, you can give the regular password, whichever one you are familiar with. You have to remember this. And then you select your country for the nearest server and then create a new project. You can save the password. Project status must be green once you create it. If you see project status green, if you click on it, everything must be green. Right now, there are no tables, no functions, no replicas in this particular project. So once you have this project, it's time to get those 2 values, host and service role. So service role secret and host, these are the 2 values that we are looking for. Let us see how to get them. So for that, you have to go to project settings. In the project settings, service role secret, you will get it from data API, and then API keys, you will get the host. So let us get one by one. First, click on data API, project settings, and then data API. The URL that you see here, the URL, the one that is shown here as URL, this is your host. You copy this, simply you go back here to your N8N and then paste it. Now that is your host. Now you need service role secret. So once again, data API. So you go to project settings and then data API, whatever you see here, URL, project URL, that is your host. Now we want the service role secret. For that, you need to click on API keys. And once you have this service role secret, you can see that, right? And reveal this. Anyway, I'm going to delete this project. You don't copy my secret. It is not going to work for you because immediately after this demonstration, I'm going to delete this project. It's not going to be useful for you. So reveal it, copy it, and then you go here, you paste it here. If you have pasted it, once you hit save, if it shows a green tick mark, that means you are on the right path. So those are the 2 values that you need to get from Superbase. Superbase, create a project, make sure the project is in green color, and then a data API, API keys, data API will give you host, API with key will give you the secret. Take 1 or 2 iterations if you are not able to get it, but it's not that difficult. You must be finding it very easy. And then we will go back.
Continue with the next video in the playlist. We are covering everything step by step. If you have any questions or the comments, please post them in the comments window below.